So in Halo 3, there's an area that I don't believe anybody has ever explored, because the game developer slapped about 1 million barriers to prevent players from getting to it. So, a new area in Halo 3. Let's get it shot! So this area is so simple, yet so difficult to access. It is both within sight and basically within reach, but Bungie, for whatever reason, really didn't want players going to the bottom of this foggy pit at the end of the mission The Ark. This is one of those weird areas where they didn't actually put a death barrier, but instead, they put a massive barrier to prevent players from ever being able to get down here. Why they did this instead of a normal death barrier? Well, your guess is as good as mine. In any form of Halo 3, you can just jump down to this area, but you can't explore much because there's a giant barrier that acts as a ramp preventing you from getting any further, which basically makes the bottom of this pit completely unexplorable. Or does it? What if I could just go right through the barrier? My idea was to have one player use the Acrophobia skull to get on the Phantom at the beginning of the Scarab section of the mission The Ark. Then, and I thought this was genius, my idea was to take the chopper and repeatedly shoot this Phantom all the way to this pit. Because you're in an enemy vehicle, hypothetically, you would just be able to phase right through it if you could get it all the way there. Now the trick of this is we have to keep the Phantom in this area so that it doesn't fly away. And if you touch any part in the sand above where the Phantom is floating, it will automatically fly away past the waterfall and then it will just disappear from the map entirely. So in order to avoid the sand, you can go around on the brown rocks, which serves another purpose as well. Once you get to the top of these rocks, you're at a higher position so you can shoot the Phantom further. We're going to need to shoot this thing an insane distance to be able to get it to that pit. Now my plan was to have one player stay on the turret, and then with the chopper, I would shoot it outside of the map barrier. Once I had this Phantom far enough outside of the map, my plan was to then send my second player, which was on the Phantom turret, back into the map to launch a vehicle outside of the map so that I could continue blasting this Phantom in the right direction. Now I had this elaborate plan in my head, but was it going to work? Well, I wasn't quite sure, but I was pretty confident that it would work. It would just take quite a bit of time.
It looks like it's moving on the other player's screen, just like an inch at a time. Oh gosh, is it really gonna be one of those tricks? Just gonna be sitting here for an hour.
After 5 minutes of consecutive shooting, it appeared this Phantom was not going the normal rate. I expected this to be much faster, and when I was looking at the second player's screen from the perspective of being on the turret of the Phantom, it really was being moved inch by inch, but then it seemed to hit a point where it wasn't really moving anymore. So my suspicion was that having a player on the turret prevented this Phantom from going outside of the map like it normally would be able to. So I took this player off the turret, died, and then spawned on my other player in the chopper. Then it appeared as if the rate of the Phantom's movement picked up rapidly because it was moving.
Seems to be going faster now. So you can have someone standing in it.
At a certain point, I had to go to a higher position to be able to move this Phantom in the direction that I wanted, and for whatever reason, I decided to put the second player on top of the Phantom, and while I was moving it, the player that was standing on this, well, they hit a barrier and fell off. They then fell into the sand, which then activated the Phantom to fly off.
I fell to the ground.
So to avoid the exact problem that caused the Phantom to fly away, this time I took a second player and got on the back turret of the Scarab as it was walking overhead so I could immediately get out of the map and not have to worry about this later. Quick side note, if you get on the back turret of the Scarab and then just as it's about to push you into the ground, if you get off the turret, you go slinging really high in the air.
Believe it or not, that Phantom is moving.
I mean, you'll probably see this in editing. I'm just sitting here
For like 30 minutes on end shooting this thing. Moving pretty quick now.
So I got to a point when shooting this Phantom with the chopper where the Phantom was going a little bit too high in the air, so I had to make sure I positioned myself. And based on the previous information where I had a second player go on the turret, well, I figured I could prevent the Phantom from drifting too much if I did this. And when I tried to do it, I was controlling the wrong player.
No, wrong controller, no, wrong controller! Motherfucker.
After another 20 minutes of setting this all up again, I was finally ready to get my second player on the Phantom's turret so that I could then get outside of the map where we had previously launched a Gauss Warthog and then use this Gauss Warthog outside of the map to push it even further. But then I made the same exact mistake as before. I used the wrong keyboard.
Motherfucker!
The Phantom then flew away, and so did any ambitions I had for completing this trick. A few months went by, and then I had a completely separate idea. What if there was some way that I could get under this barrier somehow? So I recruited my brother, and our first step in our relaunch of trying to do this trick was getting a bunch of vehicles outside of the map on the other side of where this pit is located. Trying to get to the bottom of the pit right outside of the last area that you go in, dude. I think I figured out a way. So to potentially get through the bottom of this pit, I knew I was going to need as many vehicles as I possibly could based upon the layout of the area in question. There are multiple structures that have tall walls. Now I knew that there were map barriers everywhere, but I wasn't sure exactly where. But I knew I'd have to at least get over 2 walls, and that's the rationale for needing so many vehicles outside of the map. I needed as many opportunities to launch with a vehicle as I could get. Now luckily you can launch these vehicles outside of the map right outside the entrance of where the scarab comes over your head. And there's plenty of vehicles in this area. However, when we first tried to collect the Gauss Warthog, we found a glitch we'd never seen before. An invincible marine that literally could not be killed no matter how many times you shot him or what you tried.
Alright, kill this guy. Okay, how many times do I have to shoot him in the back?
You can't kill it?
Hello?
What the?
Did you
I
see
fired
that?
it instead.
But then now he's gonna try.
You know, there are non-violent means to this.
I just don't understand, bro. This guy is literally invincible. Is this young Sergeant Johnson? He might actually be invincible, dude.
He is.
Alright, send him in. Alright, get out of this. We need to frag this thing out. Dude, that's sick. Alright, let's double frag this and then shoot it. 3, 2, 1. Go. Alright, we got a couple more vehicles up here to throw outside of there. 3, 2, 1.
Now that we had an ample amount of vehicles outside of the map, I needed to break outside the map myself. If you take the chopper up this rock and boost once you hit the elastic barrier, you'll break right through. Then you can just go through the crack and all the way around back to the vehicles. Now, all we had to do was just transport these vehicles to the section of the tower that is outside of the map. Once this was complete, the plan was to send another player in the map to get a checkpoint. Well, it took about 10 minutes to transport all of these vehicles, but with the second player that I was controlling on a separate computer, I sent them forward to get a checkpoint. I didn't know how we were going to get to this opposite pit, but at least I had a lot of vehicles for attempts. Now, what do we need to do is we need to try to get one of these vehicles on that wedge right there. So I'm going to need you to throw a flag grenade right there as I'm boosting. Pay attention.
I'm gonna pay attention. You're gonna kill me. Why would you do that?
They're shooting at us. This is not good.
How's it shooting through the building? No, there's no building.
I need you to throw a frag like right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold on. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good.
First try.
Well, I need to go get more.
Oh.
So my plan for this was to launch a vehicle in the second pit. And if I could launch multiple vehicles into the second pit, this would mean I would have more vehicles to try to launch with. My plan was to see if I could go all the way to the bottom of the middle pit and then use a vehicle to launch up the wall. I figured, hey, maybe I could duck under some invisible map barrier that the devs forgot about. Now, one thing that I discovered immediately was there's a pretty large elastic barrier in the second pit as well, but I figured I would at least need to get vehicles in the second pit to be able to get to the third pit, which I deemed the hardest to get to. 2, 1.
Ooh. Did grenade even do anything?
Why did you just died? Are you stupid?
You killed me, you dummy!
How?
You ran me over! You don't even
Actually,
need
you
it,
know what?
bro.
Yeah, I really don't.
You died as you run me over and knocked me off the edge.
Oh, shush.
How could this happen?
Oh, shush. Now, because my brother and I both died, that would mean that we'd have to reset up these vehicles to get more vehicles into the second pit again. And on this attempt, I decided while I was floating on the invisible barrier waiting to get to a wall so I could throw a spike grenade to actually be able to die, that I would throw frag grenades at the ghosts underneath me. Because I was on a large elastic barrier above the ghosts, I figured launching them towards the bottom of the ramp was more likely going to lead to an open hole in the barrier. And also, the wall that I needed to launch up to, well, it was also towards the end of this ramp. One of us needs to get on that platform right there. Alright, I should probably get another checkpoint. Let's launch this Warthog over real quick. So the next issue that we faced was, how were we actually going to get down to the second pit to be able to launch up to the third pit, because there seemed to be an elastic barrier covering this entire thing. And my only idea was to try to get on the first rung and see if at least some part of it allowed you to get around the elastic barrier. Are you ready for the ride? You're going to land on this first platform, okay?
Alright. I made it. That bump is killing me.
Alright, start. When you get close to it, just start running and then jump.
Alright.
Alright, did you hit a barrier?
No.
So it appeared my brother found a spot that didn't get him sucked by the elastic barrier. Now I just needed to spawn on him. Go down to the end of this, but stay on the left side of this. Okay? No!
It pulled me in, dude.
That's the whole thing I was trying to avoid. So my assumption was that half of this first wall was not subject to the elastic barrier. So that meant you could walk all the way to the bottom of this without getting sucked into the elastic barrier. And the goal was to get my brother on top of this wall so he could eventually find a spot where I could spawn in, if that was even possible. If we could make it all the way to the bottom of the ramp on the first wall, well, then we could likely get under the elastic barrier and get to our vehicles in the second pit. Then we could set them up for a launch to get to the top of the third wall. After about 5 minutes of attempts, we finally made it. Now we were ready to test to see if and where my brother would need to go for me to be able to spawn in and not get sucked into the elastic barrier.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Goodbye.
sucked in though.
Get sucked, Shilt show.
Okay, I need you to go down there. Stay on the left of that structure. And then go down towards the bottom.
Jump walking down this one?
Yes.
I really have to pee.
I need you to go all the way to the left of that thing. Me too. I gotta piss so bad.
I gotta go pee.
Here, there's no barrier. We're good. Okay. As it turns out, if you go all the way to the bottom of that ramp, I think you're underneath the elastic barriers, so that meant that if I could just vehicle launch up to the wall, I could probably just walk to the bottom of the third pit. Okay, I just need to get up to that thing with this ghost. Hopefully I don't get sucked up in the map.
Beep beep.
I don't-
Beep beep. I want to call you
Like
beep
that.
beep beep.
So it appeared that I would have to move these vehicles towards the top of the ramp. Getting in them near where the elastic barrier is automatically flings you in the air. So I would need to move these ghosts to the top of this ramp to get them set up for a launch. My plan was to stand on one wing of the ghost and stick the other wing with a plasma grenade and hope that it would get me at least the 35 feet I needed to go in the air. But I also didn't want to go any higher than this because I was almost certain that I would get sucked into an elastic barrier. I figured if you could stand at the bottom of the ramp of the first wall, you could probably stand at the bottom of the ramp of the second wall. Now I got the ghost set up on the ramp right below the wall. Now I didn't need to be in the ghost, so what I did was I set it up on the ramp, and then with the third player that I was also controlling, I tried to get a checkpoint. But even after clearing all the enemies out after the scarab section, there was no checkpoint to be had. So that meant I would have to manually try to launch with this ghost
ghost each time. This was going to be super ineffective, but it wasn't that high of a launch, so I just needed to get a little bit lucky once.
I believe in you, dude. That's a pretty small ledge, dude. You got it.
Yeah, but I need vehicles that can actually launch me, man.
Wong me, brother. Wong,
Dude,
wong.
this is not launching me. So eventually the ghost blew up from too many attempts trying to launch with them. We had no other vehicles in the second pit, so this meant we would have to restart this. And when trying to get my brother to the wall again, we discovered a weird glitch. If you take a vehicle or a chopper over this little crack, you basically get glued in it. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get out of it. All you can do is go back and forth. But that is not the strangest part of this glitch. For whatever reason, when I eventually got out, I started floating upwards. I was able to get on a ledge that you normally can't explore because there's elastic barriers everywhere. So in trying to get to this pit, we accidentally discovered a glitch to get to a new area. I can't get out. Dude, now I'm stuck. I'm literally stuck in the barrier. Dude, I'm floating now. Look at this. I'm floating.
Dude, the real trick is always.
What is happening, dude? You see this?
The real trick is always in the after the credits.
Dude, I'm like Mary Poppins, bro.
See ya.
Dude, I made it all. Bro, I'm not even part of the barrier anymore.
2 tricks in 1, dude.
That's incredible.
All right, I'm coming up there, dude. Dude, if you get the chopper in here, there you go. That's the real trick.
The real trick is the fact that I just found a way to phantom float all the way up. Are you stuck to a barrier? Because I'm not.
I am now.
Now I am.
Dude, you should do a dude count because we've said it like 1,000 times. So.
Dude.
Dude.
Chill out.
No. Oh.
Dude.
Look at this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Ooh.
We just start floating all the way up to the tower. Alright, so side journey and new secret area and new glitch aside, we now needed to get back to our main objective. Alright, dude, I'm going back into the fucking map to go get some shit. I'll be right back.
Alright, I'm gonna go piss. I got it.
Now, we tried a different method of trying to get a vehicle to the first ledge, but this just didn't really work. So at a certain point, I finally gave up and decided I was going to get a gravity lift that was in the map and bring it back. My plan with this gravity lift was to launch a warthog or a chopper over into the second pit. Then, if I had my brother stand on top of a vehicle while I drove it into the gravity lift, maybe he could just jump on top of the ledge. So after I went all the way back inside the map and got outside the map again, I was finally back to this area. We were able to successfully get to the first ledge again, and our vehicle stack method worked perfectly.
Okay. I'll browse Twitter, because I'm useful like that.
Now my brother would just have to jump to the bottom of the pit and live. You need to go to a spot like down here and try to jump off the edge and make it without dying. Don't go too far or else you're going to get sucked in the barrier.
Don't tell me about
On.
sucking, dude.
Yes. We did it. We did it. Now go back to the pit. Go back to the pit. All the way to the pit. Part is the pit.
No.
You might be the first person to ever get here, but you're also the dumbest person to ever get here.
How is it possible? You just showed up.
Well, now I'm the second person.
Dude, it's the seamless warp, dude. Go the seamless warp. This is what we were getting to. Is this?
This is this. You can't access by any normal means, man. Even if you time travel, this whole barrier
Come over
exists.
here. Come over
Now
here.
just stay down there for a sec. You can actually walk this whole thing, but I'm gonna hit a barrier right here. Yep. See, I can't even move, dude.
This whole thing is one massive barrier. All right, I'm going back down. Look at this
Yeah,
texture, dude. Look at
that's
this
what I was talking
design.
about. So I told you, I was talking, come over here, dude. And you're like, no, I don't want to. You're fat and ugly and gay. It's stupid. And jump.
Don't jump. Just don't jump. Just walk in the corner. This isn't a 90-degree angle, so we can't. I don't think we can elevator. There you go. New area unlocked for you guys. We found the easier way. Just use a freaking gravity lift and save yourself 2 hours.
Unless you're Sam, and then you got to keep doing the same thing over and over again because you don't want to spend 5 minutes in gravity lift. Yeah, got him. I'm walking all over here. You can't stop me.